So when is this Syrian conflict going to end? Ever? Is it? It's not going to end until Turkey puts an end to it.
Well, Turkey is a puppet of NATO, so I think that it's not what Turkey wants to do, really. It's more like what its masters tell it it's allowed to do. And at the moment, ending the conflict isn't on the agenda because the a sort of win for NATO and the US is to just destroy Syria to as much as possible to protect Israel in future. Um, Disarming it, destroying its schools, its hospitals. We used to produce all our medicine. Apparently, our economy is so bad right now that we have 40% unemployment. So basically, by this, even what I said 2 years ago, one of the objectives is to destroy Syria. So even if they don't see themselves capable of winning, making sure that we're, behind the race is a sort of a win.
Oh, and millions of Syrian refugees emigrating to America and England and everywhere is a great success for NATO.
I think that I definitely see now what you told me about, a few years ago about the multiculturalism and the idea that mixing people up is a good thing and sort of diluting culture. I can see that more clearly now, especially with the Syrian refugees thing. At the moment, the countries, I believe Australia is going to accept only Christian Syrian refugees, which is ironic because they're funding the Islamic group they're supporting the Islamic groups, but they're accepting Christian immigrants. So obviously they want to get rid of the Christian minority in the Middle East. That's one of the objectives. Um, the I saw something interesting on an Australian program. It was an Iraqi boy with an amputated arm who was adopted by an Australian woman, and he had a beautiful voice, and he was singing on Australian Idol, and he sung Imagine All the People by John Lennon. And some people will see it as very sweet, but what he said at the beginning about there being, there shouldn't be any nations and we're all just people, that sort of got to me as there was an ulterior motive behind taking this kid away from his culture and his people and putting him in a completely different country. And the result, the lesson out of this war is that the nation state should be dissolved. I don't agree with that. This.
And also the destruction of culture. And the fact you can take anybody from anywhere and turn them into this modern being that can sing a John Lennon song. You
Well,
can actually
this.
create a new culture, a new world order culture for anyone from any background.
Well, that's exactly why there was one Syrian woman, Doctor. She's in Britain right now. Her name is Dr. Diab, or I'm going to get her name for you right now. But she said something that I actually understand. She said that she's a Syrian immigrant living in the UK, but she said that it's better to fund the Syrians inside the Syrian refugee camps and make their situation better rather than take a few hundred Syrian refugees and make them live in London outside of their culture. And she did not articulate herself very well, and she basically got blasted from all sides, including Syrian sides, the cultural hypocrite. Because here she is living in the West, in a situation where there's no war and with a good economy, and yet she's saying that the UK should not accept these Syrian refugees. But she said it like, oh, why should the UK taxpayer have to pay for these refugees coming here? The way that she's talked about it wasn't very sympathetic. However, the point that she made about taking people out of their culture why do that when you can take that money and help millions of people inside the refugee camp where they actually have hope to return to their country? Why do that? That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I think that under the United Nations law, if a refugee comes up on your shore and asks for refuge, her name is Hala Diab, Dr. Hala Diab. Um, then of course you're obligated to accept that refugee.
No, I think it's the whole scam from the beginning. The whole incitement of the war in Syria is about getting the refugees, whether they're in refugee camps or not, just uprooting them, divorcing them from their history and background, destroying their culture in effect.
Well, the refugee camp, you can actually at least there's a way back from that. Nobody wants to stay and live in the refugee camp, but everybody wants to live in a country that has got a better economy. I mean, that's one of the reasons
Well,
that
no, everyone's prepared to get up and move and live in a country with a
no,
better economy. I mean, if you're already a
no, and I know
refugee,
you're absolutely right. And I know a guy who's a Syrian soldier. I knew him before he joined the army or was conscripted, and he says he'll never leave Damascus, especially when his country needs him, even though the opportunity is available to him. So if the opportunity was available for me to return, I would return, but the opportunity isn't available to me right now.
whatever happened